Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the We Believed You Paranormal Podcast. I'm Eric.
And I'm Michelle. Are we going to introduce, or did you want to tell your story first?
Oh yeah, let me tell you guys a little something. It's nothing big, but I definitely wanted to sage the room before we started today because we were here. I think it was yesterday morning. We were getting ready to go take the dogs to the vet, and well, I don't know. Anyway, besides, Valeria was taking stuff out of her bag, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I walk in next to her, and she goes, "Did one of the cats come in here?" I was like, "No, they're locked up eating because we have to separate them and lock them in the kennel. I don't want you guys to think that we lock them up all day. We lock them in the kennels separately so that they can eat because some eat faster than we have 4 cats. There's a couple that
get
eat
into each other's food, basically.
Yeah. So anyway, my wife asks me, did one of the cats come in here? And I said, well, there's 3 of them that are locked up, and the one that's not locked up in the kennel, I closed the door just before she got in. And she goes, that's weird. And I was like, what happened? And she goes, well, and this is in the room that I record in. Off in the corner, I have like the little DJ Hero like turntable set up. And she goes, I swear I just saw one of the cats jump off of that thing and into the bed. And she goes, it was white. And she goes, like, kind of like Dowie. Like, I'm sorry, Zoe. We call her Dowie. It was like a pet name, even though,
she's
anyway,
a pet, and her name's Zoe.
Yeah. Anyway, Zoe. She goes, like, I thought it was Zoe, and I was like, no, Zoe's locked in the kennel right now. She's eating. And she goes, oh, okay. I was like, are you like I tried to say, well, maybe. And she's like, no, I'm just telling you that's what I saw. I was like, oh, okay then. And then I was about to walk out. She's like, no, don't walk out yet. I'm like, okay. So then I waited for her to finish, and then she was like, me first. So she walks out first, and then I turn off the light and I walk out behind her. But so yeah, I made sure to sage the room right now before we started.
But what if it was my kitty that passed away there?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Blue.
possible. We talked about that cat later that night, but I didn't bring that up.
Well, I mean, she was white-ish. She was half Siamese, so she was like cream colored.
She would have been the same color as Zoe. Yeah, because Zoe's also like part Siamese.
Oh, that's right. Well,
yeah.
So I mean, just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like I said, just wanted to stage the room regardless because, why not?
I don't think it's if it's my kitty cat. Maybe if you told her that, she'll feel better. All right. So today our guest is going to be Rue, and she has a podcast called Supposedly Pod, right? I have that right? Okay, perfect. Mm-hmm. And I put a little note out into Reddit if there's anybody who had paranormal stories, and Rue reached out, and this is where we're at. But Rue, do you want to introduce yourself a little further?
Yeah. Hey, I'm Rue, and as Michelle said, I'm one of the co-hosts of Supposedly, and each week, we cover a true crime, paranormal, or mysterious story that we can't believe happened, but supposedly everything we talk about is true. And so I'm a Reddit sleuth and, an armchair detective as much as a lot of folks that I see on Reddit, and was super excited to see Michelle's post and have been enjoying kind of corresponding back and forth with them. So I'm super excited to be here tonight or today or whenever in time and space y'all exist. I know we have a bit of a time difference.
So yeah, it's 10 o'clock just about 10 o'clock in the morning for Eric and I here in Texas. But Rue, what time is it and where are you exactly?
So I'm coming to you from the future. It is 5 p.m. here in Germany. It's a great day. You're going to have a beautiful day ahead of you. So I've seen it all already.
Was it cold over there too?
Oh, it's so freaking cold. We have radiators in our house, and they're just not keeping up. I miss having central heat. So we're Americans. My husband's in the military, which is why we're over here. And man, I miss my furnace like no other today.
Yeah, us Texans are struggling over here because we're not used to like super, super cold weather. and we're having this
Yeah.
weird like winter blast come through, and it's gonna be like in the single digits, at least here in Austin
Oh,
where I'm at,
no.
and I've never experienced single digit weather, so I don't I don't know what to expect.
Yeah, for us here, down here in the part of Texas where I'm at, we're only getting down to, I think on Monday it'll be down to about in the high 20s, but right now
Yikes.
I think we're 37, so for us that's already very, very cold.
Are you guys getting any snow or anything? Or ice?
Um, Austin's got a lot of ice right now. And
Yikes.
then I think it was probably about a month ago now, we did get snow randomly, like 4 inches of snow, which that is like that doesn't happen. It sleets and then maybe we'll
Yeah.
get like an inch of snow. So I don't know. This winter has been record
Cold.
setting. Yeah. But in a good way.
Yikes.
I love it.
Okay, well, there you go. I know it's rough sometimes because Texas just doesn't have the equipment to deal with snow. That's why I was
Mm.
curious. I was like, man, are you guys just totally snowed in?
Yeah, Texas usually just like shuts down because like everyone gets in car
Yeah.
accidents, no one knows how to drive. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So, Rue, I know you have like a specific story that you kind of reached out with that we're both like super fascinated to hear because I've never heard of this before. But
Okay.
I always ask the question, what was your very first paranormal experience that you can remember?
Oh, man. That's tough. I mean, I have always been super sensitive to it. I think probably being a kid and thinking that I had like an imaginary friend, but my mom coming into my room and being flabbergasted that the room apparently smelled like cherry blossoms, which was the perfume that her favorite aunt, who passed away that I'm actually named after, always wore. And so she
Oh.
pretty much thought that I was playing with my namesake. I don't remember that as being ghostly. I remember a time I was about 7 and we went to the Battle of Lexington's historical site where I'm from in Missouri. I'm from Kansas City, which isn't too far from there. And I felt a like heavy, almost calico kind of material dress brush past my legs and thought I saw somebody that would have fit that era.
Hmm.
So those are probably my earliest recollections of something that wasn't of this world necessarily.
Is that kind of what like inspired you to like want to do the kind of podcast that you're doing, or was that something
I mean,
else?
for me, it's such a chicken and egg thing. Like, my mom was huge into the paranormal and spooky stuff. I mean, I grew up playing Resident Evil at like 2 years old.
Mhm.
And so spooky, weird stuff was just kind of the culture I was brought up in. And it's always been a fascination. And actually, Jesse, my co host, and I started our podcast because we love the trash TV that is Ghost Adventures. And with me living over here, we would have kind of like a weekly Zoom call to watch bad TV together. And then it was just like us talking like, oh, this is my paranormal story that I love. Oh, have you heard about this cryptid? Oh, I love this true crime story, this unsolved mystery. And it was like, if we're going to talk about this so much every single week, shouldn't we just make a podcast? And that's kind of how the podcast got started.
Hmm.
Nice.
Interesting. Yeah, we love trash TV too. Well, at least I do. I
No, I
talk
was
about.
about to
Oh,
say
yeah.
I can't do Ghost Adventures anymore. I think I liked the early seasons, and for whatever reason, sometimes it just gets to be too much. But
Yeah, we love to hate it. I mean, we've made up like rules to a drinking game for it because it's so bad.
what are those rules? Maybe if I play that way, I can actually watch a show.
Yeah, it changes depending on how drunk you are. Every time that Aaron makes his great shocked face, you have to take a drink. Every time that Zach does the weird like Illuminati steeple with his fingers while interviewing someone, you take a
Oh
drink. I mean,
yeah.
it can kind of be whatever you want. When he
Yeah.
puts on his silly little gas mask, yeah,
Oh, that's good. That's a good
Every
one.
time he
All right.
mentions he has asthma.
Does he?
right,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's why he wears a mask.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Apparently, after the Hell House, he developed a lot of health conditions, and he blames them on demons and not getting older or the fact that he's been spelunking in dusty buildings for the last 20 years. But okay,
yeah.
As- Asbestos.
Asbestos.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Because
that sounds like a demon name.
I know.
Right.
Could
Probably would say something like that.
this house be haunted by asbestos?
Spot on. Okay, Do you have more paranormal stories that you can? I mean,
Oh, I've
I
got
kind of.
tons. I
Oh,
mean,
perfect. Okay, so then should we start with the main story that we don't really know what this mythical creature
Yeah,
is?
because I'm kind of interested as far as like because part of the reason why we started this podcast was not. I mean, we're Hispanic, so we know a lot of the
okay.
Hispanic culture. Well, not a lot, but
Lore,
a lot of the Hispanic lore.
Hmm.
But we wanted
Right
to
on.
hear like lore from other states, other places in the
countries.
world, other countries. Because to us that's interesting. That's what we want to learn about. That's what we want people who do listen to us to learn about and share with us. You know what I mean? So I'm really
That's
excited
super
to hear
cool.
about this. Yeah.
Nice. All right. So should I just hop on in?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so like I said, we're living in Germany. I guess I should first off super preface this. In addition to having a whole bunch of paranormal experiences, I also identify as a witch and have a craft that I practice. So I'll just kind of preface with that as it will kind of become a little bit relevant. So this last summer, we went to a small lake that's not too far from where we live, and we were going to go stand up paddleboarding. And I was super excited. I love the water. It's totally my element. I'm like I can swim for days, whereas like I can run around the block and be like, all right, that's enough for me. It's time for nachos. But swimming is my jam, and my dear husband is completely the inverse. He is not a strong swimmer, which is something that I especially discovered that day. So we were out in kind of the middle of this lake, and I'm standing up, having a great time, feeling like Moana. Life's good. And I'm like, hey, come on, babe, stand up. It's fun. And he does. And he's like, cool. Yeah, this is pretty fun. And then he goes to sit back down because he's like, all right, that's enough of that. I feel a little wobbly. And he actually lost his balance and fell in. Um, and I was like, okay, like he's super strong. He can just climb on his paddleboard and life will be good and he's wet and I'll laugh at him. Um, but it quickly became apparent to me that he was in trouble. And I will add, always wear a life jacket. We were not provided life jackets at the rental stand. So definitely if you are in the water, that's a thing that I would suggest.
Yeah.
And so I quickly swam over to him. And I was like, all right, if I can just, I think he's just panicking. If I can just help him get his face out of the water, he'll be able to catch his breath and climb back up. And he just couldn't stop freaking out. And it started to get pretty bad. He started to actually lose consciousness,
Oh, jeez.
and just kind of let go a little bit. And I actually like did the straight up movie thing and I slapped him across the face and I was like, stay awake. There were a lot of expletives involved. I'm not sure if those are part of your show, so I'll omit them for now.
Oh, go ahead.
I was like, don't fucking give up. And I just grabbed him by the jaw and I'm trying to keep his face up. I'm starting to get tired because it's really hard to swim for two grown adults.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to just push myself through the water to just keep him up. And I'm starting to take on water and I'm starting to get pretty tired. And there's people I can see far away and I'm like scream, like I finally remember to scream for help. I'm like, oh yeah, I have a voice I can use. And I'm like, help, somebody, anybody. And hoping that, even with the language barrier between German and English, that you hear people screaming in the water and it usually means like, hey, I'm not great.
Mm-hmm.
And no one's hearing us. And I'm just getting more and more tired every time I come up out of the water and they're still not there. They're still not there. They're still not there. And I come up at one point and there are two people also on paddle boards right by us that I hadn't even seen in the distance. I have no idea where these people came from. They straight up saved us. And even more crazy is that it was a middle-aged German man who's actually a doctor
Hmm.
Wow.
and a younger woman who's actually an American affiliated with our base, and she's a certified lifeguard. So we literally got saved
Wow.
by
Wow.
the exact people you want to save us, and they pulled us in, and they were able to do the doctor did like a field test just to make sure my husband was okay because he was full on in shock. Um, and they're okay, it's all right, and they set us under a tree just to kind of get our bearings and sip some cool water and just be glad to be alive. And then my husband looks down at his hand and notices that his wedding ring is gone.
Mm.
And he's like, I'm so sorry. And you know, because he's kind of in this panicky shock state, he's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You know, he's thinking like it's, you know, that he's like blaming himself. And I'm like, no, it's okay. And then I just get hit with this intuition and I go, it was a gift. I was like, that was the
Oh.
exchange that got us out of here. And I don't know why I even had that inclination, but I knew it was so strong and so correct. And I was like, that's in that moment, I was like, that's super weird. But I'm just, you know, trying to figure out, do I need to take him to the hospital? Like, I'm like, I'll put that on the back burner.
Mhm.
But I'm like, file that one away for later. And so we get home and take a nap because wow, is
Yeah.
almost drowning tiring.
I
Oh
can
yeah.
I got a
imagine.
smoothie because my throat was raw from screaming and guzzling water. So I'm chilling on the couch with my little mango smoothie, and I Google and I'm just like, you know, gold offering water spirit Germany. Because I'm just like, all right, maybe it's something, maybe it's not. Like I said, you know, I have this intuition. I do practice witchcraft. I have had a lot of paranormal experiences, so I'm just like, why was that almost something that I felt like especially guided to? And
Mm.
as much of a paranormal witch person I am, I'm not super hippie woo woo about it. But I was like, this is a greater message. Like it felt so strong. And I actually discovered that in England and Germany and some of the Nordic cultures and countries, there are these entities called either the Nix or the Neck or the Nixie, kind of depending on what the language origin is. Um, and the most common place that you might have seen them is if you saw Frozen 2, the water horse spirit that Elsa rides on is actually a Nix.
Oh, okay.
And they're kind of these shapeshifters that can be humans or mer people or sometimes even like snakes or sunken treasure. And they have some common ground with like the sirens
Mm.
that'll like lure people into their death sort of deal. But that they were also, so I don't know if you guys are into opera at all.
Not I can't say that I am, but
um, but Wagner's Rheingold, which I'm sure you've heard in movies at least,
mm.
there are actually keepers of this treasure, the Rheingold, that are said to be the Nix. And that is based on the lore that these entities will drown you unless you give them a gift of gold. And so there was this tradition where when people had to cross large bodies of water historically, they would bring a small gold coin to throw in to earn their safe passage.
Hmm.
Wow. And
And
I'm
so
assuming
it's
your husband's wedding ring was made of gold.
it was, yeah.
When you said that you had that intuition that it was a gift, like I full
Mhm.
body chills. So I'm like, all right. Usually when I get like full body chills, it's like, yeah, it's probably spot on.
Yeah,
Exactly
it's
right.
one of those things that I'm like, I'm not saying, "Oh yeah, that's what it was. I know that's what it was." But I
Hmm.
am saying, "Boy, isn't that strange?"
Yeah, I mean,
You know, it's one of those where it's just it's bizarre how strong that feeling was.
mhm.
Um but yeah, so that's probably the strangest thing that's ever happened to me, and like also one of the most high key traumatic.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah,
Yep, that was rough.
No, I was
before.
just, it's because when she was talking about that whole drowning and being tired and all that stuff, I was remembering the time. I think we mentioned it before, but I don't think we ever gone into detail about a time that we almost got our legs cut off by the propellers of a yacht in Missouri,
Oh,
in
bro.
Lake of the Ozarks. Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Yikes.
But we were in the water, right? We had life jackets, so
Uh-huh.
we were swimming, and then all of a sudden, he was just trying to reposition the yacht because I think the anchor hadn't caught or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And then so he starts going forward, but when he goes forward, the propellers push my sister and I away. So we're like, "Holy shit, they're leaving us!" I mean, obviously they're not leaving us.
Yikes.
We're kids, right? Like,
Yeah.
but in our
Right.
kid mind, they're leaving us. So we both start swimming towards the yacht, and then he throws that sucker in reverse. So when you throw the propellers into reverse, I mean, now instead of pushing water, they're sucking water, right?
It's sucking you in, yeah.
Yeah, so it starts sucking us in, and we're like, "Holy crap!" And then we start to feel this, and then we just managed to catch like the lip of the little platform or the platform on the back, and we're both like hanging on for dear life,
Oh my
and we're
god.
like screaming. And then my mom like I don't know if my mom was down there already, if she had to come down.
Mm-hmm.
She came
And
down.
yeah, and then she just grabs us both and like is like holding us, like trying to keep us from going under, and
Oh,
like we're like trying to kick as hard as we can. Like we took
Mhm.
swim lessons and stuff. We were decent swimmers, so we're like just
yeah.
kicking as hard as we can. And then our dad, he's kind of looking down, and he's coming down too to try and help, and then he's trying to yell up to the gentleman to stop, stop the boat. And so finally he stops doing what he was doing, not because he heard, but because he finished, catching the anchor. And so like all the propellers stop and everything, they pull us up, and like needless to say, we were kind of traumatized to get in the water after that. So I was
Yeah,
also
I
going to
bet.
ask, has your husband gotten back in after that incident? Like, has he gone back into the lake or paddleboarding or anything like that?
Actually, neither of us have. So, the summers in Germany are pretty short, and this was at the tail end.
Mm,
And we had some free
okay.
time, and so we're like, "Yeah, let's go spend a day at the lake." And we haven't. And I'm curious to see how it will influence both of us and our relationship with water. I don't think he'll probably want to paddleboard with me again. Um, and that's fine. I'm curious to see how it will change. Like I said, I'm super comfortable in water and have always felt really safe and really at home in water. But this relationship or this incident almost felt like a betrayal of that relationship. I was like, "Whoa, hey
Oh,
now, how
yeah.
dare you? Like I
Yeah.
thought we were cool, bro."
And
So it'll be interesting.
did you share that, like, what your I guess, your findings with him as far as these, entities? 'Cause I know for, like, my skeptic boyfriend, he'd be like, "Yeah, okay, whatever, I just almost drowned and that's it." Like, what was your husband's reaction to that?
He was pretty shocked. He definitely believes in all this stuff. He's a Sasquatch
Oh, sweet.
fanatic.
Nice.
Yeah, and so he was just like, "That's pretty freaking weird." Like, he was like, don't love that one."
Yeah.
So he was definitely on board with it, and he was like, "Yo, man, I'm glad it's chill, but, like, yeah, I guess they almost got us."
Like give them all the wedding rings.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Oh, man.
And how
I
deep? How
mean
deep is that lake?
Um, so my understanding of it is pretty blurry. When I was deep under, because I would try and swim down to find the bottom to push myself up to kind of shove his body up to get him out of the water.
Mm,
It felt like probably about 15 plus feet.
mm,
I think it was probably about I'm 5'8", and I feel like it was probably about two of my body length, so around 10 feet before I started feeling vegetation and silt. And
mm,
then there was silt to go through. And I actually, it's weird. Your brain does some weird stuff to make trauma okay.
mhm.
And while I was down in the silt trying to get leverage to push him out, I kept thinking of in Harry Potter when they're doing the Triwizard tournament
Oh,
and
yeah.
they have to do the
oh,
water event and the mermaids are like, "Only one," when he's
Yeah.
trying to save Fleur's
both
little
of them.
sister. And I was just like, "Not today, mermaid. I'm saving my
Yeah.
man, damn it."
Oh.
And so I was like, "Oh, maybe that was one of the little nixies that I was
Yeah.
as I drowned thinking I was seeing." I'm sure my brain was also in shock from, you know, oxygen deprivation at that point. So who knows, but
So you feel
it was
like
a
you did see
little
one?
bit of a hyper coincident. Hmm?
I'm sorry. So you felt, did you that you saw one, or again is
I
that
know
just
I didn't see one because my eyes were
okay?
closed, but it was
Oh,
just I had kind of that
right,
vision in my
right.
head, and then to be like, "Oh, there are entities that will try and swallow you up and kill you." I was like, interesting. I wonder if I felt something subconsciously, knowing that I
Yeah.
am kind of tapped into that realm that
Mhm.
my brain was only like, "Oh, I know this is the mer people from Harry Potter. That's what I'm seeing." I don't know necessarily. I think I was just drowning. But it was interesting to be like, "Oh, hey, I know this lore from from Harry Potter."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And later I feel like, "Oh, I know beyond knowledge that this was an offering." And then it
Yeah.
turns out that there are entities that corroborate with it being an offering that are also kind of adjacent to that. So I don't know. It was a lot of coincidences at once. And when there's too many coincidences, it stops feeling coincidental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder what, like, how many drownings there are, like, a year in that lake. Like, I wonder if this is, like, a regular thing that happens where if you don't have an offering of gold to give, then the person ends up
I
Like do
hope
the
not, because it's a really populated like family hotspot. But
Yeah.
I have heard one of my friends who's lived here longer than me did let me know that unfortunately someone did lose their life in that lake a couple years ago.
oh,
Mm.
So, yeah.
It's too bad we didn't have a Neville Longbottom friend with Gillyweed to, give everybody before
Who
they
are you
go in.
telling, man?
But I mean, do you like? I know you guys are on a base and stuff, but do you
Uh-huh.
get to like hang out with like or mingle with the German people and stuff? Because I feel like this is something maybe it's a stereotype of the German people. They're just
Mhm.
very like like thoughtful people. Like I feel like they wouldn't believe in superstitions and stuff like that as much as other cultures maybe would. And so
I
like I
think
don't
you
feel like
might be surprised
really.
because so we live off the base, but we're affiliated. So, I mean, pre-COVID, obviously, you'd be able to go grab a beer and sit next to a German guy and let him tell you stories and, kind of as you have broken German and he has broken English. And there's a lot of lore that still exists.
Mhm.
And I think you're looking back at like Grimm's fairy tales. A lot of that comes from here. You've got
That's
Krampus
true.
who comes from here. There's
Mhm.
a lot of those folk tales. Um, and so I feel like it's still a little bit more culturally
Mhm.
relevant, but it's definitely I don't know that they so much like buy into it as much
Right.
as they're just like, "Oh yeah, I know about that. That's a thing. Yep, you
Mhm.
probably did get got." Like
Because like
so, yeah.
because like I definitely can't imagine like German people like going to a lake like okay, and again I'm basing this off of the Hispanic culture. Like I can
Uh-huh.
totally see like Hispanic people like going to this lake and before they go in and swim or something like just tossing a coin in like as an offering so that they
Mhm.
don't drown that day. But I can't imagine Germans doing that.
So I feel like I think that's a really good analogy. I feel like German culture, and this is again just based on the German folks that I do know, would be more like, oh, we're not going to waste money on something that stupid. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not throwing money into the lake. But if you die, it was for sure this thing's fault.
I see. I see. Okay.
Like, after the fact, they'd be like, no, that's why you died, dummy. Why didn't you throw a coin in the lake? But it's like, why would we ever throw a coin in the lake?
Yeah, that's good. I actually wanted to ask about or kind of talk a little bit about your podcast.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think the first episode that I kind of clicked on was what was it? The Nazi sea monkeys.
Yeah.
So that was my first introduction to y'all. But it very much kind of reminds me of kind of the chatting in the beginning, like oh my goodness, My Favorite Murder. Sorry, and then
Oh, yep.
yeah, and then I listened to a lot of and That's Why We Drink. But just it's like very much like just two friends hanging out, just shooting the shit, talking about weird things, and
Yeah,
it's
we
very
love
fun.
both of those shows, so I would love to consider them our big sibling shows.
Yeah.
They don't know who we are at all, but no, those are absolutely huge, like, podcast icons for us, and yeah, I mean, I think that resonates out just because we are friends who just wanna stay in touch. It's hard to stay in touch, as I'm sure you've learned with the pandemic,
Yeah.
but moving overseas, I'm 7 hours ahead of her and a million miles apart, and so it started really as just like a, "Hey, let's be really diligent about making time for our friendship."
Yeah. No, that was a good way to do it. What has been obviously haven't gone through all the episodes yet, but what has been like the weirdest topic that you guys have discovered?
Oh, man, okay, my personal, like, white whale, holy grail ooh, am I a rapper? Excuse me. Episode is covering the Dyatlov Pass. That is
Oh,
the story that just never lets me go.
it's so weird that you just brought that up. I shit you not. I was trying to talk about it last night to my boyfriend again, but I
Uh-huh.
could not remember the name of the pass. I was like something pass. So the fact that you're bringing
Yeah.
it up this morning, perfect. So now I can tell him about it because I will kind of let you actually no, you know what? I'll let you kind of give like a little summary of like why it's so weird, and then
Okay.
I do have a story about that.
Okay, so super quick, because I don't wanna jack the whole podcast because I will with this topic. Like, I've spent hours and hours and hours researching this.
It's a lot.
So 8 college students and a ski instructor who are all the highest level, ski experts in Soviet Russia at the time, it's 1959, decide that they're gonna go on this super hard pass to get their final credentials to become these master hikers. Um, and everything goes according to plan for the first couple of days, and then they all die. And we don't hear anything from them for weeks to months, and they were all found in really unusual ways. Some of them were found mostly nude. Some of them were found, they'd kind of created a little makeshift den. But the interesting thing is that they showed internal injuries that didn't have corresponding external injuries. So, like, a lot of them had ribs that were smashed from the inside. Some of them were missing their eyes, and some of them were missing, one of them was missing a tongue. There were people who had almost what looked like ligature mark bruises around like their ankles. Someone had a baton-shaped bruise on their waist. So it's kind of one of these things where it's like a lot of people want to say avalanche, but like avalanche don't do baton bruise, sorry.
Yeah.
So it's a very bizarre case to me. They were also positive for radiation. So it's just one of those things that it doesn't feel like it wraps up very nicely, and I'm just so intrigued by it.
Oh, go ahead, Eric.
No, I was gonna say my only explanation for possible like internal injuries without any kind of like surface like marks or anything like that would be depending on the layering, like how much layering they had and if they got hit in those areas. But I still feel like there would probably be, some sort of mark or something because you're mentioning like baton marks. I'm like, well, if they got beat with like a bat or something, maybe depending. But I mean, you would literally have to have like a decent amount of layers or like something still protecting you to where you get hit there that you don't bruise, but you still like, for example, get a broken rib or something like that. But,
yeah, and most of them were just found in their like long underwear, so it's pretty freaky. But no, that is probably my favorite one that we've ever covered. A few weeks ago, we got to talk with Christian B. Roper, who is a treasure hunter, and that was pretty cool. He also just has a lot of really unique experiences on his own, which he was a really fun guy to talk to.
I'll have to listen to that one.
Yeah.
But the Dyatlov Pass also was, or I guess there's this recent article that came out like maybe about a week ago now that they're trying so hard to just go with the avalanche theory that they actually took what the animators
frozen
used.
snow.
What the animators used for Frozen, the movie Frozen, to like get the avalanche scenes and stuff, and all they like essentially just put like a human body, and then threw that avalanche in there to try and like, see, this kind of works. This is probably what could have happened, but it was just it's like they're trying so hard to like.
There's just still some weird stuff to me. There was like the hiking instructor was a really unique guy who's maybe not even who he says he is, and I'm like, cool, even if you throw an avalanche on me, that still doesn't wrap that up nicely. Avalanches aren't typically radioactive. Like, there's just still some weird stuff that I'm just like, cool, we've solved maybe that, but you haven't solved the 85 other things that don't match up.
Yeah, no, that would be a super awesome topic to deep dive, because you could go on and on and on. There's so much weird stuff in that one for sure.
Oh yeah, that one's my favorite, but
I was wanting to hear a few more paranormal experiences that you've had before we kind of start wrapping up here.
Alrighty. Well, there's a thing that lives in my basement right now.
Ooh, tell me more.
So we live in a city here in Germany that's over 400 years old. It has existed as this city for over 400 years. And actually our base was the Nazi winter training base. And after the Geneva Convention and everything, we repurposed it as an American base. So it's safe to say it's an area where some not great stuff has happened. And my belief is that energy kind of collects. And so I don't think that what lives in my basement is a ghost, but I also don't think it's like a demon. To me, it feels just sort of like this collection of negativity, of pain. And I have a agreement with this fella where I'm like, cool, you live in the basement, I live on the 3rd floor, and we never have to talk to each other. Like, you have no reason to come upstairs. I only go downstairs when I have to. Like, we don't have to cross paths. But I will definitely, there's an automatic light in our building is set up like the 1st floor is a doctor's office, and there's someone else's apartment above that, and then mine on top. And then below the doctor's office is this basement. and there's a motion sensor light that will come on that I can see through my front door, and it will come on when there is no motion
Ugh.
happening. Like, I don't hear any footsteps, there's no doors closing, and it's just like, oh, the light's on. Okay, that's cool. Or like there's a basement light that you can kind of see through the stairs. And sometimes when I walk in particular, it'll come on and I'm like, I see that you're poking your head out to see what I'm up to. I'm just going home. Like, leave me alone.
Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. So that one's it's freaky when the basement light comes on. I'm like, no, you don't need to look at me right now. Like, I
Yeah.
know you're looking at me. Stop it. So yeah, that's spooky. But I don't really interact with it too much. We kind of know it's down there. My husband, who's not super sensitive, like I said, even he used to go out because that's the path to our back door, and he used to take the trash out that way. And he's like, nope, I'm just gonna walk straight through the front lobby because I'm not here for it.
Yeah.
But yes, that's pretty weird. I don't know.
I mean, at least you're not seeing fingers coming through the cracks of the doors, right?
Oh God.
That would be a hell no for me. Like,
Yeah.
I would be gone.
Yeah.
I'd be like, sorry, I love you, babe. I'm gonna go back to America now.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that one was pretty weird. I don't know. There's a cemetery near where I'm from in Kansas City. It's out in Blue Springs, Missouri. It's called Lobb Cemetery. And me and my little sister have had a ton of experiences out there. That one was pretty weird. I've felt hands pressing on me there. We've seen orbs, like, with our naked eyes. We've seen shadow people there. I don't know. Like, it's sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen stuff. And then people are like, wait, that's like normal for you? And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that is something unique because there's just so many things that I've seen in my lifetime.
I have, or I'm curious. A lot of people, not a lot of people, but I've heard people talk about, ghosts touching them, and I've always
Mm-hmm.
been super curious because I only ever get it like they're in my energy field. Like it feels like
Mm-hmm.
someone's in the room with you kind of situation is what I feel. But as far as like
Yeah.
something actually, like, does it feel like another human, like touching your skin, or like what is that? What could, yeah.
So in that cemetery, there's a back corner, and it's actually where the slaves who built the cemetery wall, and then later Black people and people of color were buried. And it's right kind of as I got towards that area because I was like, that's the oldest part of the cemetery. I'm curious about it. And I always kind of talk and announce my presence when I think that I'm maybe have some company around me. And I'm just like, hey, I'm just curious. And as I kind of got to that threshold where is, the slave quarters of the cemetery, I felt immediate resistance. And it felt like human hands, like dozens of them just pushing against me. And I was like, okay,
Ugh.
I'm so sorry that, and I'm a white person. And I'm like, okay, maybe, it's just this immediate, like, we don't trust you. You're not welcome in our place. And I was like, I totally get that. And I was just like, I'm sorry that people hurt you, and I'm sorry that people were terrible to you, and I hope that you're able to find rest. And I just kind of sat down and I just talked to them, and I was just like, everything that happened to you was unfair and it was terrible, and I'm so sorry that you still feel like you have to protect yourself. And I just chatted for a while, and eventually, like, I felt the hands lessen, and they almost just felt like a gentle touch. And I was just like, I wish you all the best. But I kind of felt like that wasn't an area for me. And I was just, but that was the most evocative touch experience I've ever had. But yeah, it felt like fingers. I mean, it felt like hands, how you would feel them, not just like a blast or, whatever.
Yeah. Ugh. I want to experience it, but I don't know. I feel like if I actually did, I'd freak out. But I'm curious.
It's intense. It was an intense experience for me, for sure. Yeah.
Eric, have you ever felt that before?
Yeah, I mean, I've never had it like on my skin, but like just on clothes and stuff. It just feels like imagine somebody putting their hand on you and like pushing that, like pressing, like you just feel the pressure of the person's, like, if somebody was putting hands on you or something like that. But it's not like, I don't know, it's nothing like crazy. At least I've never, like, again, I've never had it on my skin before, so I don't know what it feels like if it's on, like, on your skin, but for sure, like, over the clothes.
Nope. No, thank you.
I think maybe one of my most unique experiences, if you guys want to hear it.
Yes.
Sure. I've seen ghost plants before.
What?
Ghost plants?
Yeah, so this was another experience with my sister in Kansas City. So down in the 18th and Vine district, which is kind of the jazz district of Kansas City, there's an old hospital, and it's called the Wheatley Providence Hospital. And it was originally opened to serve as the Black hospital for the city. And later it got repurposed into an orphanage, I think a youth home. And then in the 80s, it was the Asylum Haunted House. So this thing has seen all sorts of life. And my little sister and one of our girlfriends, I think my mom was like out of town or something. So we were being complete hooligans, and we were like, yeah, let's go check it out at like midnight. Let's do it. And so we went, and we kind of like, park out front, turn the lights off. I'm like, we have to stay in the car. Like the building is not in great repair, and I've been there during the daytime, and there's some evidence of some people who are experiencing homelessness and maybe doing some drugs and such. There's, needles and stuff. I'm like, okay, literally my mom will murder us if we get out of this car right now. Like I'm not scared of the ghosts, I'm scared of the people. So we stayed in the car, but I was like, all right, let's look. And my little sister was looking up in one of the windows, and that's when she saw her first apparition. And I was kind of scanning, and I looked down towards the front of the building, and I couldn't believe it because it was like January. I think it was maybe even like this time of year. And there were rows of crops in front of, and it was like a small garden. And I remember seeing like these big elephant ear plants and some sunflowers and like vegetable plants. And then I saw a man in coveralls stand up with a hoe in his hands and just look at me. And we looked at each other for a couple minutes, and I was like, we gotta go. I was like, this is not the right place for us to be. And we went to a gas station just to, oh my God. And because we were kind of scared something was going to follow us home. So we're like, let's go get a, pop and figure out our lives. And I told my sister what I saw, and my friend, I don't remember if my friend had seen it, but my little sister saw something up in the window, so she didn't see what I saw. And I was like, that was just so freaking weird. And so the next day, in the light of day, we stayed up all night just freaking out and holding each other pretty much. But the next day we're like, all right, let's scientifically go back, see if maybe what we saw has explanation. I was like, all right, you look up in the window where you thought you saw something, and we'll see if maybe there's something that could obscure the moonlight or whatever. And I'll look, and maybe there are plants, or I don't know. So we go back, y'all, and it's completely just dead grass.
What the hell?
Like there was nothing. And I was like, so not only did I see this gentleman who was working in the garden, but I saw the plants that he was tending to.
It's weird.
I'm almost wondering if you just like stepped into like the past, like a little blip,
right, like a time loop or something.
Yeah,
it was weird, man. Like that's probably the one that is like the most unusual thing I've ever seen.
And then he was probably like, he sees this girl just appear out of nowhere, and he's like, "What the hell are you? Why are you here?" Type of thing. You know what I mean? That's
yeah.
crazy. I just got chills down my legs. It might be because I'm fucking seasoned, but it might not be.
I like that. I mean, yeah, ghost plants is a first, but the fact that you saw like a whole scene, like not just the plants, like a person and stuff too. Like, that
one was
like,
freaky.
Glitch in the Matrix kind of situation there. That's
awesome. It did feel that way. It felt like either a time slip or a dimension shift, or it was very, and I think that's part of why we wanted to like not go straight home. We were like, all right, we need to shake this off a little bit.
Reset. Ugh.
Yeah. I was just thrown off that you said pop. I forget.
Oh, soda?
No, we call it Coke.
Everything's Coke.
Everything's
Even
Coke.
if it's Sprite, it's Coke. Dr. Pepper.
You're in the Coke district. A carbonated beverage, if you will.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'd be lying if I didn't imagine like a popsicle when you said pop, and I'm like, no, that's what people say. It's like not a popsicle.
Yep.
That's hilarious. But that's an interesting story. I've never, ghost plants. But I like time.
That one was freaky.
I wanted to give you an opportunity to, tell us where we can find your podcast and where we can listen, and if you have anything else that you'd like to promote.
Awesome, thanks. So if you want to hear me ramble for way too long about the Dyatlov Pass, or I actually do tell the story about the Knicks on our show, because our show is almost very short. If I would have died, I think it would only been like 10 episodes. But you can find my show supposedly pretty much anywhere that you like to listen to your podcasts, and we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at supposedlypod. We'd love to hang out with y'all.
Sweet. Thank you so much for coming on, Rue. It was a
Yeah,
pleasure.
it was a blast.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. You guys are a lot of fun.
All right. Well, that was some interesting stories.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard thing to hear. Like, you love the water, and then something like that happens to you, and you don't know what your relationship with the water is going to be like.
Yeah.
Especially for the husband who, like, he already had a bad relationship with water, and then now this happens. So there's a good chance he's going to be traumatized for a long time, or if not forever. I mean, if not, then that's great, but I don't see how that wouldn't leave a mark.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I'd be able to get back into water without a life jacket, even if it was like a swimming pool. I feel like drowning is probably one of the worst deaths you can experience. So, not that he died, but just to almost get there, like no, that in itself is like the nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, even with a life jacket, I think, I don't know, you would have some sort of PTSD after that. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, definitely. But I don't know. I'm glad that she taught us something new. I had never heard of the Knicks before, and something from a different culture, like we're wanting to experience and stuff. So I always love learning something new about the paranormal. Yeah, guys, but go ahead and listen to their podcast, because yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like I said multiple times while we were recording with her, it's like hanging out with friends and listening to them chat and stuff. So, and if you love paranormal or all things spooky and weird, again, if you're listening to us, you'll probably enjoy them as well.
But if you go listen to them, don't stop listening to us, because I don't think my heart could handle that.
Yeah, we all know how I feel about rejection, so I would just break.
Please don't do it. But yeah, guys, so if you want to share your drowning stories, I mean, if they're paranormal, even better. But and if you didn't die, also, that'd be great. I guess if you're sharing it, you didn't die, right? Um,
uh,
go ahead and send us a message or email us. You can get us on Instagram, it's at We Believe to You Podcast. On Twitter, it's WBDY Podcast. On Facebook, it's We Believe to You with a question mark. And our email address is webelievetoyou@gmail.com. So go ahead and send us those stories, guys. Remember, we can interview you, or we can keep you anonymous, or you can send in stories for us to read on the podcast. We really want to hear from you guys, because we believe.
Do you?